What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and in today's video, we're doing some Miami Dolphins stock up and stock down as we get set for our Week 3 matchup, a game of undefeateds. Your undefeated Miami Dolphins 2-0 against the 2-0 Buffalo Bills as we return back to Miami for some Week 3 action. But as we have doing in these videos that have been released on Wednesday of game week, stock up, stock down. Like I said, my way of keeping tabs on players, who's doing well, whose stock is on the rise, who has not been living up to expectations, stock down and needs to improve, especially right now, so we can get that win streak going, get to 3-0, sit atop of the AFC East. And I know that you're going to have some stock up, stock down candidates as well. So make sure you are dropping those in the comments as well. But let's get rolling right away. As you can see right there, stock up Tua Tagovailoa. We went from week 1 where we saw some off-target passes, some questionable decision-making late in the game, holding on the ball a little bit too long, trying to make more off-script plays than we probably needed, considering how that game was going, to 469 passing yards and 6 touchdowns just 1 week later. And I swear, if that doesn't scream stock up, I don't know what does. Tua has turned Tyreek and Jaylen Waddle into 2 of the top 3 receiving yardage wide receivers in the entire NFL, which I know we're only 2 weeks into the season, but as Dolphins fans, if you've been a fan long enough, you can understand that that is absolutely wild to fathom. We have not lived this life in my lifetime. In my entire lifetime as a Dolphins fan, we have not been where we currently are. Now, not only are the stats showing up, because Tua also leads the NFL in passing yards, 739 on the season, but the dude's confidence is oozing. We are seeing a different level of play now that he's got a coach and a scheme that fits him perfectly. He's got a line that's holding up pretty well for the most part, and playmakers that are simply complimenting him just perfectly. And more so than anything, he just feels, you can see it on the sideline. You can see it in press conferences. He looks more comfortable with his surroundings. And as we preview this week, we get set for Buffalo. And you know what? Maybe we don't see a repeat performance throwing for 470 yards and 6 touchdowns. And hopefully we don't need that type of performance. That's the kind of performance you don't want to have week in, week out, multiple times throughout the season. But this game does. If you look at how the Bills have been playing, might have a little bit of back and forth in it. And it was great to see that Tua and the Dolphins offense already had one of these games now this year. And not only did they already have one, but they performed. They showed that they could carry the load. So it's stock up to it. And I'm feeling good. So I want to do another stock up. Little unsung hero here. Fullback Alec Ingold. By my count last week, I saw Alec Ingold with one play that I would consider a bad play from last week. And that's the one where he failed to get out and get that block on the cornerback on the quick screen to, I believe it was Tyreek. It was either Tyreek or Waddle. But honestly, besides that one play, Ingold has been as advertised as a Mike McDaniel fullback in this scheme. We've seen him in short yardage situations with the fullback dive. He's been sent on passing routes and made plays in the passing game. Damn near had that really nice longer completion on that wheel route from Tua against the Patriots. He's been used as a blocker from the fullback position. He's been sent in motion to block on those wide receiver screens. And honestly, if you don't remember the completion to Jaylen Waddle, where Tua was throwing it from our own end zone, go back and check that one out, because who's down the field blocking, giving Jaylen Waddle the opportunity for all that run after the catch? It's none other than Alec Ingold. And honestly, as a watcher of football, I'm still adapting to watching a fullback used in a Dolphins offense. But honestly, he's been used all over the place, and it just helps create more chaos for opposing teams. And he's also another guy for me that's definitely stock up. And if you haven't been doing so, be sure, keep an eye on him. Just watch the different ways, the magnitude of ways that he's being used. It's pretty fun to see, and it's not normal for us to see as Dolphins fans. Let's go to a stock down here. I got defensive coordinator Josh Boyer on the list today. And honestly, when I first started prepping for today's video, I had Xavier Howard on here. But after I thought about it some more, I decided to label Boyer as the stock down rather than Xavier Howard, because I know Xavier gave up the huge 75-yard touchdown between Lamar Jackson and Rashad Bateman. But outside of that play, he really didn't have any plays that was worthy of an outright stock down tag. So went with Boyer because I looked at some of the numbers here. The Dolphins blitzed Lamar Jackson on 58% of his pass plays. They failed to sack him even one time. And that's after last year's game where I think they sacked him 4 or 5 times. No sacks against Lamar Jackson last week after blitzing on 58% of his pass plays. That is pretty alarming. And it also appeared so many times, too, when they were blitzing, the corners were playing about 10 yards off. It seemed weird because I'm not a defensive mastermind like Josh Boyer would be considered in this situation. But I would think that if you're going to blitz a bunch of guys, you really wouldn't want to leave wide receivers to a point with that much cushion where the quarterback can simply take the snap and just toss it out to them before your blitz even has a chance to getting home. Now, I know the defense, they made some crucial stops in the second half of that game against Baltimore. They did hold the Ravens to a field goal after we had tied it up in the fourth quarter. But the defensive stops are going to have to come on a more regular basis this week against Buffalo. Check out these numbers. Over the course of the last 3 times we played the Bills, we've been outscored 117-37. We haven't won a game against the Bills since December of 2018. That is 7 straight wins for the Buffalo Bills. And during that stretch, we've allowed 36.9 points per game. Damn near 37 points per game. So yes, maybe we will get into a bit of a back and forth shootout. And like I said, I know we did it against Baltimore, but we don't want to get into the habit of doing this week in, week out. So defensive improvement and defensive improvement fast is going to be huge for Sunday. Let's go back to back on some stock downs. And it's Liam Eichenberg, and I am going to put a qualifier on these next 2, sort of pair them together because I have 1 stock up, 1 stock down in regards to the offensive line. But honestly, offensive line is one of the hardest things, in my opinion anyway, to judge while you are watching a game, especially on TV. There's a lot of moving parts. Not every single time are you going to know who that lineman is responsible for blocking. So I'm not going to be pretending to be some offensive line guru here. But so far, both my eyes and the metrics have told me that Liam Eichenberg is struggling. He's probably the offensive lineman struggling the most right now through 2 weeks. There's been a couple of instances where I've been just singling him out and watching him, and he's reaching for his guy too early, and he's just simply missing. And when he's reaching and missing, he doesn't have the ability to recover, and it's been hurting us. And I don't know if it's just because he's trying to initiate the original engagement every time because he doesn't fully trust himself. And I don't know if that's the theory or not, but he's been reaching on blocks and getting beaten just too quickly. I do want to give him 1 quick heads up though, or thumbs up, I should say, because I absolutely loved his block on Jaylen Waddle's first touchdown against Baltimore. Check that out if you missed it, because he gets out there quickly and he annihilates a man, just sends him to the ground, springs Jaylen Waddle for that touchdown. But he had a 29 overall grade from Pro Football Focus in week 1 and followed it up with a 23 overall grade in week 2. That is not going to get it done, and that is the last thing we want, is that pressure coming from the interior just flying at Tua. We saw it a couple of times in that Ravens game. It typically resulted in broken plays. And if you go back and watch the second touchdown to Tyreek Hill in the fourth quarter there, watch Eichenberg. He whiffs, and you'll see how close that play was to not happening. So go back and check that out. But let's bring this back up. Greg Little on the stock up. Said I had a stock up from the offensive line, and there it is. Little obviously filling in at right tackle for Austin Jackson. And much like I said on one of last week's preview videos, Greg Little replacing Austin Jackson is a player replacement we can live with in terms of player production. What we're going to get with Austin Jackson versus what we're going to get from Greg Little, really not a big difference. Now, Greg Little, I mean, he's come with some flaws, but he also hasn't completely imploded and ruined plays. at right tackle, which is especially important since that's Tua's blind side. And what did we see last year from right tackle? Jesse Davis, in particular, turnstile, just completely getting whooped around the edge. We're not seeing that from Greg Little, so I have no choice here but to give him some stock up. He's holding his own more often than not in pass protection. His run blocking on that final Chase Edmonds run was textbook. Help us get inside that 10-yard line on the final drive. And like I said, I'm no offensive line guru here, but I think that Greg Little has done a fine job filling in so far. And I wouldn't completely rule out the idea of him potentially keeping that spot even when Austin Jackson is eligible to return, because who knows? If Liam Eichenberg continues to struggle at left guard, maybe the coaching staff says, you know what? Austin Jackson can play left guard. He has the experience doing it there last year. We leave Greg Little out at right tackle because he hasn't been a liability and he's done pretty well for us out there. So who knows? That's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on once Austin Jackson is back off of short-term IR. I'm going to finish up with one more stock up here. And I know this one isn't a player just like Josh Boyer wasn't, but I cannot ignore what Mike McDaniel has accomplished in his first 2 games as a head coach. 2-0 against 2 AFC opponents, 1 divisional opponent, and 2 Super Bowl winning head coaches. That is an incredible start to your head coaching career. And not to mention, this is the best part. We lead the NFL in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and we're second in total yards per game and 4th in points per game in his first season as an NFL play caller. Last year, we had 13 offensive coordinators, and it felt like performing brain surgery would have been easier than running an 8-yard out. It's unbelievable the difference he has made. He's been doing a good job of building plays that stack up on top of each other. He made noticeable adjustments from week 1's game plan to week 2's game plan to help put that offense in a position to succeed. And how many plays does this guy have? You don't hardly see the same play run too many times. Remember this offseason when Tyreek Hill said, yeah, man, I'm football smart, but man, Mike McDaniel's offense just has me confused. And it took him a little while to pick up on everything that McDaniel was doing. And now we're seeing that come to fruition. And last week, especially, we witnessed an offense that simply could not be stopped. To be fair, Tua might still be out there right now throwing touchdowns if football didn't have a clock that forced the game to end. I feel pretty confident in saying that. And I'm going to be talking, honestly, more Mike McDaniel here throughout the week in my future preview videos. So I'll talk more then. But his aggressiveness on 3rd and longs, where we used to be super conservative, and having confidence in the offense, going for it numerous times so far this year on 4th down, regardless of really where the ball has been on the field, has been super refreshing to us as Miami Dolphins fans. And honestly, it's a huge reason why we're 2-0 right now. Now, week 3, he's going to have his work cut out against him, against the Bills. We've seen what their defense has done to both the Rams and the Titans. But man, it would not surprise me if Mike McDaniel literally had his own playbook to use against the Bills only. He's been prepared for nearly everything so far that's been thrown his way. I expect him to be really up, really prepared for this game against the Buffalo Bills. But like I said, those are my stock up, stock down candidates. That's where you come in as well. Make sure you are dropping your candidates in the comments below as well. And stay tuned because I will be back on Thursday with my 3 keys to victory for the Dolphins over the Bills, and on Saturday with my final preview and prediction video. That's what I've got for today, Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.